we're back with another chapter of Expected and Unexpected by Arthur Vulpix. Yes, we are back with this instead of um, Full House Wars, but I'm working on it, okay? It's just, I don't feel up to editing the video footage that I do have. So I'm just thinking of just redoing the footage or something. We'll see. I'll figure something out, hopefully. But, yeah, we're currently on chapter 90 with if you want to follow on. This is in the description below. As always, highly recommend you follow along. So, because I have a habit of skipping over words, and apparently recently my volume recording for this is low or quiet, even though I'm kind of speaking loud for this. So I've got to turn the volume up as well for that. So do follow along. Plus, at the end, you can do a review, comment, I guess for you, show the office some love. Because I don't want comments on this video. I want you to show the author some love. They wrote this, not me. I'm just reading it aloud. Um, but yeah, I think this might be another long chapter. Maybe not as long as the previous chapter, I don't think. But it does look like it might be long. So again, check the link in the description below. Follow along. I highly recommend. Let's get right into this, shall we, with chapter 90. Investigating. The next day, she didn't have school. She was still on medical leave from the university. Professors and friends flooded her email wondering where she was. So, instead of sleeping, she spent her morning after work replying to emails and letting the right people know she was taking time off and to send her the assignment back when it was finished, absolutely rubbing her bare feet as she was curled up on her couch. She glanced at her new wheelchair. This one had coffee red accents. It was nice. She twisted a bit and froze at the shooting pain that ran up her spine into her toes. He waited for the pain to pass, pressing the side of her head into the couch cushion and squeezing her eyes shut. Spasm? She heard Jeremy ask. She nodded. She felt him pick up her legs to move them out of the way and sat down next to her to wait it out. I'm good, she said. Jerry didn't respond. Did you take your medicine? He was nursing some tea, which was weird. He hated tea. Yep, did you see the stitches? I haven't changed the bandages. I'm not a child, Jeremy. He scowled. I worry about you, he shot back, rolling his eyes. They were both quiet for a moment. Amelia, the kids are still sleeping, Jeremy said. We're thinking of heading back home tomorrow. I don't think your roommates like us. He snickered. Tara left to stay at her boyfriend's. Ah, that's why I haven't seen her. She didn't like kids, he said. They're siblings, so she said the twins don't bother her. Mm-hmm, Jeremy hummed. Do you think we should stop by the pizzeria to say goodbye before we leave? She kicked his feet up on her coffee table, pointedly smirking when she found a dirty smudge from his shoes. Ah, the joys of siblinghood. Yeah, he said, but added nothing. She stared off at the She stared at the off television with a thoughtful expression, still absently rubbing her feet as she tried to make the tingles disappear. Her hands reached up to yank at her hair. A few strands fling out. Hedy? Hmm? Something wrong? He glanced at her brother as he stared at her with a concerned expression. She hated when he asked that question. It reminded her of their age difference and how Jeremy had been her mother and father and brother all at once. Did you ever look into the accident? Ruby and her parents. I only learned about it last week. That wasn't what I asked, he said knowingly. Jeremy shot her a brief glare to the side. I looked at the case files. That's it. I was more preoccupied by our case, but I want to go over it when I can. Just for my sake, you know? If the files mention survivors. The only one who survived was Ruby, Jeremy said. That was a big part of the file. I mean, like surviving gamblers, he said. On the other car. Jerry blinked, his eyes distant as he tried to remember. There was a daughter, and I can't remember her name. I looked at the pictures before I had to put the file away. His eyes looked pained and he looked sad, sympathetic for her brother. It had been years since she outwardly admitted it, but she adored Jeremy and always hated when he hurt. It's still fresh, she admitted. It's worse than looking at the murders because there's barely anything in the files there. That makes me sick in a whole other way. That accident? The police took so many pictures. He swallowed and stared at the tea he hadn't even sipped yet. They checked every minor thing. Something like that involving someone I care about is a lot different from something I've spent years knowing myself to. And any other case I worked that isn't personal. I understand, he said, not hurt that he said Ruby's accident hurt more than the murderers. It was a shock. Why are you asking about survivors? Jeremy asked. He hesitated, seriously debating telling Jeremy. If Ruby was keeping it to herself, she had a reason. Then again, this was Ruby. She kept a lot of things to herself, things she sometimes shouldn't. I answered Ruby's cell phone last night, he said. She told Jeremy about the call, replaying it back to him as closely as she could to word for word. Jerry frowned, immediately switching to cop mode. It sounds like she's done this before, he mused, not liking it. This sounded awfully like a stalker, but Ruby wouldn't tolerate that kind of thing. Would she? Hey, Ruby, you know, hey, Hedy, you know Ruby better than I do. What's the chance of her defending herself if someone blames her for that accident? She's getting a terrible feeling about this. He stared straight ahead as her own ill feelings turned. She puts all her energy into making sure other people don't blame themselves when it's not their fault. But with herself, she's a hypocrite. She's not letting go of Michael getting to me. Jeremy's eyes narrowed at thought, to be thought, and if we bring it up, then she'll immediately go on the defensive and argue with us until we're so mad we forget what we're asking. Besides, you're learning how to deal with Ruby, but she still walks circles around him sometimes. He could handle her better, recognizing what she was doing faster than he did. She's so good at acting like she's okay. We wouldn't know something was wrong until it was too late. 100 worst-case scenarios was running through each head. Logically, she shouldn't have a problem if it was a stalker. She was on friendly terms with all the cops in the area. But then again, this was Ruby. She didn't tell others when something was wrong. We need more information, he said. He was silent as they both thought about what to do. They couldn't jump to conclusions. They weren't even sure if this really had anything to do with the accident. And they didn't know why Ruby wasn't retaliating. Not really. There were footsteps coming from the stairs. Amelia glanced into the living room on her way to the kitchen. Oh, you're back. How was last night? He seemed tired, despite having gone to sleep. Whatever bug Ruby caught had hit Marcus too. Jeremy and Hedy haven't mentioned it, but the poor kid was crying from a fever all day yesterday, so Amelia had stayed at Hedy's house to take care of him. Jerry remembered the hell of a night and shuddered unconsciously. Ruby is awful when sick. He rubbed his forehead, also thinking about the information that she'd accidentally dumped on them about her previous coping methods. Show her the picture, Hedy. It pretty much explains the night. He grinned, not caring about Ruby's threat to her and Goldie, and showed her her phone. She laughed at Amelia's shocked look. Amelia couldn't help but laugh. She didn't know Toby that well, but the poor robot's face told the entire story. Don't tell Ruby I showed you this, he said. Amelia rolled her eyes, but she was still smiling. How on earth do you manage her? Practice, he said. Amelia sighed and shook her head. She pushed Jeremy and all three of them squished together on the couch, annoying Hedy as they wrote on her personal space. What do you two look so serious about? Thought you'd be sleeping by now. Jerry and Hedy shared a look. They didn't think they were outwardly showing they were upset when Amelia came in. Something about Ruby, he said. Not surprised? I'm being serious, he said. I picked up her phone while she was asleep and got cussed out by someone Jeremy thinks is a stalker. Amelia didn't get it. I'm sure Ruby has many people who don't particularly like her, especially rude people. She doesn't seem to be the kind to appease them daily just to avoid conflict. This is different, he said. Ruby doesn't let anyone disrespect or attack her. but she doesn't seem to do anything about this person. Is this something you should worry about? Seems a basis to concern yourself with a bully if you know Ruby will handle it. Says the woman who tagged along to the workplace to supervise. Jeremy snorted, really getting glare. I wasn't supervising, Amelia insisted. I was just curious. Jerry looked far from convinced, but was wise enough after years of marriage to not mention it. Still, something's not right about this. He frowned as he thought over the information. If someone made these kinds of calls to Ruby, I'd expect her to answer them, track down the signal somehow, and deal with them in person. But ignoring the calls? It seems so like her. Amelia, hon, um, if you're so concerned, why don't you ask her guardian about it? She lives in an orphanage, right? Amelia blinked. Hedy blinked, surprised it hadn't occurred to her. What? If this has happened before, then they should know, shouldn't they? Jerry hadn't even considered that idea. He knew of them, but hadn't even thought of trying to get information about Ruby from them. He turned to his sister for her opinion. What do you think? Kitty hesitated. I've never met them before. I have the numbers, though. She thought for a minute. Ruby should go to school soon. Knowing her, she's still going regardless of how sick she was last night. I'll call and ask if she can stop by. She'll murder us. She'll murder us if she finds out. She grunted. This might be our only chance to find out the truth without something disastrous happening first. He gave him a weary half grin, and dialed the number after checking what time it was. Someone picked up. Hello, he said, a bit nervously. She tugged at her hair a bit. Is this Flynn? Yes. We've never met, but I'm Edie. I work the night shift at Freddy's with Ruby. Oh, yes. Ruby's mentioned you. Clinton sounded amused. It was quite entertaining to listen to complaints about the you girl friends passing on my territory. Changed to stories about my mechanic. How can I help you, Evie? He sputtered a bit as Jerry snickered, mouthing, my mechanic at Hedy. She slapped him on the back of his head. Well, my brother, his wife, and I were wondering if you and Alice had some time today to talk about something involving Ruby, preferably while she wasn't around to be mad at me. Sure, Alice and I are home all day today, he told her. Ruby's already left the school. Did she get into trouble? He sounded concerned at the end. No, I don't think so. I just don't want to jump to conclusions or risk Ruby possibly having bugged my cell phone. He deadpanned that last part. Would you mind if we came around lunchtime? We can eat beforehand. I just need some sleep before I leave the house. That's not a problem. There was a moment of silence. She's not bugging people's phones again, is she? He asked with a hint of expiration. I just know she's bugged our boss's phone, but that's fine. I tried to keep an eye on mine, but you never know. He shrugged, not surprised. Jeremy suddenly looked very concerned and took out his phone to get the battery casing. That girl, Clint sighed. We'll see you later, Phoebe. I look forward to meeting you. Jeremy didn't find any bugs. He did, however, find a sticker under the battery that most definitely hadn't been there before. It was a cute fox face with a mischievous expression. Me too. Goodbye. He hung up and looked at the fox sticker, immediately laughing. Jimmy rolled his eyes as Amelia snickered. Great. With that out of the way, I'm taking a nap. Painkillers have hit, he said. I'm sleeping right here. Don't blame me if Mercy jumps in your head, Amelia warned. Get up, go make breakfast. Rita was delayed. Someone was cooking for the house. She, Sarah, and Hedy had such varying schedules that they couldn't eat together often. Sarah wasn't a great cook. He was much worse, and Rita barely ever had time. Rita would cry when Amelia left. By the time it was lunch, it didn't feel like either Hedy or Jeremy had slept enough. They were both used to it for different reasons, and at least woke up to smell food. Aunt Edie, Aunt Edie! Mercy's voice hit Hedy's ears. Mommy said lunch is done. All right, I'm coming, love, he said, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. She reached for her chair, and Mercy ran off. She jerked back as she opened her eyes to Rita staring at her over the back of her couch. I will kidnap your sister-in-law, Rena said in a strange tone of voice. Her dark brown, russet skin seemed to glow with joy in the darker gloom of the living room, with its closed windows and a single lamp. Frankly, she just looked like a creep staring at Hedy over the couch. What? She's an angel. He snickered. She could cook, Frida. It's not like she cured cancer. This coming from someone who literally burns water regularly? Jeremy happened to be walking past at this point. Who let you in the kitchen? He asked when he heard burned water. She was trying to make ramen noodles. Rena sighed, while he glared at both of them as she followed into the dining room. Usually they ate at the kitchen table, but Amelia was having none of that. It was one time, Amelia said. He said, yeah, this week. Then another time last week, and twice before that. Rena said, all right, I get it. Shut up. Jerry snickered at her. You need to learn how to cook sometime, Hedy, he told her, without burning everything. She promptly threw a rag in his face. You can't say anything, Mr. Fitzgerald, Nina scowled. I can cook, he retorted as he sat down next to her still very sick-looking Marcus. Poor kid looked exhausted and like he had a headache. Jerry gently brushed the hair off Marcus' face. Only after we got married. I have to teach you, Nina said, pointing a spatula at him. But I can cook now, he maintained. He can't. He really wasn't winning himself any points with either his wife or his sister. Rita kept her mouth shut at that and eyed the pile of hot egg rolls Rita was setting on the table. She was so sick of dinners and ramen. He glared. I don't have time for that. Mommy, I'm hungry. Mercy whined, while poor sick Marcus just groaned. Mercy's demand cut through the wound glaring at Jeremy, and they all sat down to eat. It was so much better than microwave dinners. After lunch, Jeremy and Amelia discussed whether to bring the kids with them to the orphanage or look for a babysitter last minute. Unlikely. Rita would happily skip her classes to watch the kids, but none of the others were too keen on that. It took a while, but Rita eventually convinced Hedy that she wouldn't get in trouble for skipping one or two classes. The Fitzgeralds got into Hedy's truck after Jeremy and Amelia told their kids to behave and be nice to Miss Rena. Jeremy drove while Hedy gave directions. The orphanage was a large, ornery-looking building. No random paint splatters or glitter shooting out of the mailbox, no explosions. It was a big white house with a large, deep yard. It wasn't exactly what they had been Ruby's home to look like, but she still absently dropped glitter bombs around the pizzeria, even when she wasn't actively trying to plant pranks. The woman who answered the door gave the three of them a warm smile. Hello, I'm Alice. I'm so glad to finally meet you. Ruby talks about you a lot. Drove them into the living room. We had just put the younger kids down for their naps, so it'll be that very quiet part of the day now. Would any of you like something to drink? We didn't think snacks. Just water for me, Stevie said. You wouldn't happen to have coffee, would you? Jeremy asked, despite it being midday. He blinked. Sorry, I'm Jeremy, Steve's brother. He shook Alice's hand. Amelia, Jeremy's wife. Water would be nice. Alice passed on the drink, ordered Clint in the kitchen before sitting down with them in the living room. We spent the day around children, she told Jeremy in amusement. We live off coffee, and I don't think Ruby would forgive me if we stopped stocking it. Clint came back with a drink and a plate of biscuits. After all the instructions finished and he sat down, he faced Hedy. Nice to finally meet you, Hedy. We've heard everything from complaints about you to Ruby threatening to castrate the manager for not checking up on you at the hospital. He chuckled. Ruby had been taking a sip at that moment and suddenly snorted water as she laughed. They didn't think Ruby told them the total truth, but it was clear she told them some things. Glad to hear there's been a transition of sorts, she said, rubbing her nose in pain. Alice gave Clint a look, knowing that he timed it that way. She's very fond of you, she smiled at Hedy. It makes us feel much better to know she's not doing the night shift alone. He cracked a slight embarrassed smile while trying to hide the pain and having to stop herself from saying, she's never alone. I think I got forced into a bit of a big sister role being stuck with her every night. So we'll see how that turns out. She chuckled. Well, I can't escape when she's in the mood to drink a gallon of paint. They gave her understanding looks. It happens to everyone around here, around her, told he. They're not alone in that. After last month against me, she was testing some new gadget and I decided I was an excellent test subject. With sighed resignation. He never targets Alice with purpose. He shot her palate. Alice just smiled and sipped her tea. She's a smart girl, he answered serenely. She learned after the first time. Then shuddered a bit and changed the subject. So, you said you needed to talk to us about something? His expression fell a bit. Last night, I picked up her cell phone while she was sleeping. I drew the short straw for waking her up. The caller was rude and said horrible things while she thought of Ruby. Called Ruby a bitch. She lowered her voice, hoping no children were in earshot. Said Ruby should have died instead of the Collier's family. Those sort of things. I hung up, but noticed that Ruby had dozens of calls from the same person, most of them ignored. The good humor had drained away from both guardians. Alice looked pale while Clint looked livid. Alice smarted herself, rubbing her temples. Not again. Ruby doesn't need this again. I'm not letting this happen again. Clint growled. What happened? Jeremy asked stiffly. He sounded serious. Clint met Jeremy's eyes. You know about Ruby's parents, right? The accident? He asked, after getting her back under control. Yes, Jeremy replied, as he nodded and Amelia looked sad. I knew her dad years ago. Learning what happened was a bit of a shock. The pair looked surprised at that. I'm sorry you had to find out like that. Alice gave him a sad smile. Well, Ruby was the only survivor from both cards. However, the other family had a daughter who wasn't traveling with them that day. She Clint sighed. She blamed Ruby for surviving when she lost her parents and baby brother. Ruby already has survivor's guilt. That just made everything worse. We called the police when it happened the first time. She was stalking Ruby and bothering her as often as possible. The girl even attacked Ruby once. We got a restraining order against her, but she keeps getting Ruby's number somehow after we changed it. It's been a couple of years since she did this. We were hoping she finally stopped. Amelia glanced at her husband and sister-in-law as they shifted. Jerry was wearing the serious expression he wore when dealing with criminals while she hadn't seen a teenager like this before. And Ruby never retaliated? Hedy asked, her voice very soft and supposedly calm, but they could tell the news upset her. It was sad what that girl went through, and had garnered a little sympathy, but she couldn't take it out on Ruby like that. It was cruel, and she had no excuse. Outside, Ruby will defend others to her last breath, but she rarely stands up for herself in situations like this. Sometimes I think she still blames herself, even though she told us she doesn't. I'll never forget it. She just stood there taking that girl's abuse. All she tells us is that she understands what she's going through. She didn't press charges for the attack. Clint looked angry just remembering it. Did that girl actually touch her? Jeremy looked a bit surprised. He understood they said attack, but he had hoped it was just verbal. Clint nodded. Ruby needed to go to the hospital for stitches. She had a pocket knife when she attacked Ruby. What? She hissed as her fingernails dug into her new chair's armrest. Jeremy looked shocked, and Amelia was very worried. And no one arrested that girl? Jeremy clarified, barely keeping his voice even. Alice sighed. Ruby was insistent we not press charges. She got very upset as we brought it up, so we went with the restraining order. She just started getting better. We were trying to avoid anything that could set her back, Clint explained. He leaned back and stared blankly at a bit of wall above Alice's head. Is there anything I can do? She said with an odd tone of voice. Frankly, she wanted to track down that girl. What she would do afterwards, she didn't know, but she was feeling a bit unnervingly dejected over the highly out of character Ruby at the moment. Something told her she shouldn't tell Foxy about this. Alice and Clint glanced at each other. Can you keep an eye on her? Alice asked softly. We don't want her to end up in the hospital with that girl again. Normally, we don't worry about her getting hurt by others. She's more than capable of protecting herself. She just chooses not to when it comes to Sally. She refuses to explain why and wouldn't even tell her therapist. Clint added. Jerry thought the name away to think about later and glanced at Hedy as she stifled his sleep-deprived yawn. Even as she continued to stare at the wall as if it caused all this awfulness. He saw a chilly light in Heda's eyes he hadn't seen in a long time, not since she was younger. I haven't actually rejected. I'll see what I can do without upsetting Ruby, and Hedy can watch out for this Sally at their work. They both looked relieved at that. Thank you. Alice gave a shaky smile. We worry about her so much, but she never reacts well to it from voice. I'm sure you've discovered that by now. Amelia couldn't help a slight frown escape, and it distracted Hedy from her thoughts enough for her to crack a small smile at her sister-in-law. Alice gave Amelia a sympathetic smile. Caring for Ruby is like walking a tightrope. It takes a while to learn. Amelia sighed. I'm getting that. Hedy chuckled. Thank you for explaining all that to us. We should probably get going. I'm hoping to catch up on sleep before work tonight. Not often I get the chance. Clint laughed. I understand. Ruby spends most of her time not at school or on chores, on the couch, or in her room napping. Alice looked just as amused. She's definitely been happier since starting that job, though. He smiled, making an eternal promise to never tell this lovely woman what she and Ruby had gone through for that happiness. Feel free to come by any time, Alice told the TV. Ruby's friends are always welcome here. Thanks. It was nice to meet you. I'm glad Ruby has a wonderful home to go to, Dee said, as she, Jeremy, and Amelia got up and made their way to the front door. Jeremy snagging another biscuit as he went too. Amelia rolled her eyes but took one too. Oh good. I'm glad Clint picked the non-exploding biscuits this time, Alice commented cheerfully. Clint whined next to her. This one time, Alice. Ruby put her exploding batch in the cupboard by accident. Jerry paused and looked down at the treat in his hand in concern as Hedy cracked up. He knew there was an odd reason Hedy hadn't touched them. Alice giggled. She's usually careful about where she stores it, but there is a reason not a single kid in his house tries to steal cookies from the kitchen. He took one biscuit and bit into it calmly. Her treats are worth the risk, though. Jerry cautiously took a bite and shot Hedy a look. You should ask Ruby to teach you how to cook. He looked terrified at the idea. You're funny. Thank you both. Goodbye, Ely said. It's very nice to meet you. Jerry nodded and smiled around the cookie in his mouth as they headed back to the truck. After Clink waved goodbye before heading back inside to take care of the children, who were sure to wake up soon. Jerry had Hedy and Amelia drop them off at the police station, saying to get a ride back from an officer. He and Amelia headed back to the house where he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while she turned the recent information around in her head. She tried to sleep while Mercy and Marcus occasionally came in to bother their aunt. The sun through her window stretched long shadows, and eventually she realized it was late afternoon and she hadn't even closed her eyes. Why not visit the pizzeria? Mercy and Marcus might like that, and she might have time to ask Freddie or Bonnie if they had noticed Ruby's behavior. Or Goldie. The ghost bear was most likely to have caught something, even if she hadn't known to look out for it. And that's the end of chapter 90. So, much shorter than the previous chapter, but it's still a long chapter regardless, so I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't leave a like on the video, that's okay, you can do that. I just don't want no comments. No comments on the video. I want you to go leave a review. You don't need an account, it just means the author can't respond. Because the author so love. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, Saturday, with the next chapter being the 9. Anyway,